Welcome to Off the Post. I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Anthony Mingione. Ant, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Russ. I'm kind of realizing all three of us are wearing some sort of gray right now, which kind of matches the sky.
Well, no, this is blue. This is blue.
Is it blue? It looks gray.
Yeah, no, it's like a steely blue.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go, man.
His skin is gray.
I don't know about that. And we have
to end the show, Mike, because we're about to be down to two co-hosts.
Two hosts, yeah. And we have Mike Ogello. Mike, how are you?
Oh, I'm just peachy. It's 35 degrees and it snowed last night in Buffalo.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Congrats.
Congrats on the snow.
So let's just get this out of the way. There's no better way to do it. Like, there's a somewhat mostly meaningless game coming up against the Flyers and the Sabres, and someone's going to end up in the 6th spot. Someone's going to end up in the 7th spot, and then you have to see what happens with the lottery balls because you can move up or move down. But That's how it's going to go, and I'm going to guess, Anthony, that the Sabres are going to win this one because they're going to pull out more stops, I think, than the Flyers will for this.
The home game too. You don't want to lose that. The last game's at home. You really don't want to lose that one. And I mean, we saw the Flyers. Obviously, it wasn't their last the season, but
the last at home.
They went up against a Columbus team that had absolutely everything to play for. And played like it in the second and third period last night. I would think, because the Sabres, again, there's not been a coach there because everything's really for the Sabres. Everything remains status quo. You know?
Well,
Adams is back, Lindy's back.
Well,
so they're in a circumstance where they want to end a season on
everything's okay. There's nothing wrong there.
Exactly. And they're wanting to go into the summer with feeling a little good about themselves.
Life is just a bowl of cherries here in Western New York. No, I'll give you the motivation here. After 4 consecutive losses, Lindy, the Sabres have struck out at getting Lindy Ruff career win number 900. That will be the motivation, and fan appreciation day, and the Alex Tuck bobblehead and all this bull crap. I mean, honestly, they would be better off. And I've been consistent on this for ages. When you're out of the playoffs, it's better to suck the worst. It's better to be 32nd and get the highest chance of getting a top 5 pick. They've ruined that by winning a lot of games. That I get. Everybody. Lindy Ruff he's coming back, and he's trying to instill some sort of winning, tradition.
Winning by losing, ultimately.
But the thing here is, how can you accurately read what's going on in Buffalo right now? They went 13-2 in their last 15 games at home. They won 7 games in a row at home, all after their basic percentage of making the playoffs was less than 1%.
Yeah, so the pressure was off.
Right, the pressure was completely off, and they did it with a 37-year-old backup playing most of the games because Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen had not played well in a good long stretch. Now, in the last 2 losses, he actually did play well. He played really well against Toronto, but the whole point.
What's the problem here, Mike? Everything's fine.
Well, and let's just say Kevin Adams going on local radio and basically saying, "Oh yeah, Lindy's back. Oh yeah, and he goes.
He's not going to go on local radio unless he's going to basically be making some kind of a declarative statement. So there you go.
Well, I mean, that would be fine, Anthony, if he hadn't been. Well, let's just say since the Palm Trees press conference, he has spoken to the Buffalo media once after the trade deadline on the road
when he had to.
Where 3 reporters were there. He has not faced, not that it's a gauntlet or anything, but there are a lot of questions about the status of this organization.
How many season does the general manager actually talk, though?
I mean, usually
probably twice.
3 or 4 times.
Maybe.
2 or 3 times.
Trades,
at the beginning of the season, sometimes around Christmas time.
Yeah, that usually happens.
The deadline.
And then the deadline.
Season. And then the end of the
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right.
I think it was probably for the best that he didn't after the Palm Trees press conference.
Well, I mean, but that's the point. The point is that he left. He did that in the midst of the 13-game winless skid. And since that happened, this season was over with. The only thing left to really find out were things.
When was it during the 13-game winless skid?
Late November to just before.
How many games at that point? What was the skid at?
It was maybe 4 or 5. So
this is like a blueprint to how to stay in the mushy middle. That's what this is. It's an absolute blueprint for it.
And that's death. And you could say, okay, well, this organization has finished at the bottom of the league long enough. Yeah, but obviously there are gaps in talent here that a top young prospect or a draft pick in the top 5 that you could trade to get an established player could help. But I get.
Or you can trade somebody else because you got this guy in 2 years because he's a high pick. Little quicker than somebody picked later in the first, which would take 4 years.
I mean, believe me, I will have a lot of material to write about at the Hockey News covering the Sabres from here until the draft because there are a lot of questions. That nothing is, goaltending. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Defense. Now you've got Owen Power, probably with a serious leg injury, who could be out for most of the summer, recovering from that injury. We don't know what it is specifically, but I've heard it could be. I mean, the indications are it's long term.
I mean, he won't be water skiing, but I mean, he'll recover. It's fine.
Right. But and questions about the constitution of the lineup. So, I mean, really, there are more questions than answers, and that's not, I don't think, what they were expecting out of the first year of Lindy Ruff. They thought they were going to have some answers, and they have more questions than answers.
It's as clear as the Buffalo weather. All right. So when you walk out every day and you don't know what you're going to get. All right. So now let's talk about the Ottawa Senators. They have made it. They're in that 7th spot. That's a guarantee. Good for them.
Yes, sir.
I think most of us thought they could make the playoffs, so no real shock there. So now we get to hey, guess who they're going to play in the playoffs? And Mike, why don't you give us your unfettered thought about how this might go?
Well, okay, we'll save our predictions until.
Yeah, I'm not saying a prediction. I didn't say prediction.
But if you look at the way the Atlantic broke down, this is not to say that they don't have a chance to win. This was the best case scenario for the Maple Leafs because this is a team, in spite of the fact that they lost to them 4 times during the regular season, this is a much preferable team to face in the first round than the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have won 2 Stanley Cups in the last 5 years, or the Florida Panthers, who look like a wounded animal. But gee, what a shock! Barkov, Kachuk, Bennett, Reinhart, Ekblad will be game 3. All of them will be back for game 1. So would I rather face the Ottawa Senators, who, under Travis Green, played a lot better defensively, got much better goaltending out of Linus Ullmark than out of that Siv Anton Forsberg? I mean, they've shown improvement. Are they as good as Tampa or Florida? No. Can they beat the Leafs? Yes, they can.
Here's what I bristle at, Ant.
Yeah.
It's the Battle of Ontario. It's like these guys are not real rivals. Like, come on. They're just not.
It's been a while, but I mean, it's kind of like it's a throwback certainly to decades before where they truly were battles of Ontario. And
right back then, sure.
I think this is a series that has rife potential to be a new chapter because you've got abrasive personalities on both sides, on both teams that could get this series blood going pretty quickly.
Well, I'll say this, Russ. It may not be a rivalry, but remember what they always said. Well, the Yankees and the Red Sox aren't a rivalry because the Yankees won all the time.
No, but that was a rivalry like that. They're in the same division. That was always a rivalry.
Ottawa and Toronto are in the same division.
I know they're in the same division, but I don't look at them as rivals. That's all. Me personally.
I think Ottawa has the potential to, obviously be a pain in this series. to the Leafs, but I do believe that the Leafs are a superior hockey team across the board, and have more depth than the Senators do.
Yeah.
Which is what, but I do believe that it's still going to be a series that's going to have some great storylines to it.
I think it'll have great storylines, but I'm just like,
but if you're talking about a rivalry, that's what you kind of need. You need
but before it starts, other than the fan bases, I don't think there's enough hate between these teams.
I don't know about that. I don't agree with that.
It's not like Florida. It's not like Florida and Tampa. It's not.
No, but they're
first up. We're gonna have two. Hold up. Time the F out.
That's fine.
There's going to be more bad blood between the Tampa Bay and the Florida. You're going to say this to a Canadian audience, they're going to lose their shit.
But it's true. That's the truth.
I was going to say fit Ridley Gregg for a friggin' toe tag because that motherfucker is dead.
Oh.
Sorry. No, I mean, sorry, we'll bleep that out. No, we won't.
Yeah, that's that one.
No, we won't. But basically, I mean, but based on what happened last year, based on the fact that Morgan Rielly got suspended for 5 games for doing what probably most players would have done when Ridley Gregg takes a 95-mile-an-hour slap shot from 5 feet away, there's going to be bad blood. I mean, Brady Tkachuk, we know what Brady Tkachuk could do. Yes. You know what he's going to do. He's gonna run Marner, or he's gonna run Tavares, or he's gonna run, that's what Brady Tkachuk does. That's why, like, for Team USA,
but he would do that against any team that plays against
him.
Right,
Russ, but you're talking about the big brother center of the media.
A little bit of big brother syndrome.
I know. I get it.
A little bit of there's certainly going to be a bit of punching up. I would say for the Senators, and any games that they take, I think, in the series, or if they take it to a 7th game, there is a pathway for this to be an extremely highly competitive series. There's also a chance. I don't see a reverse. I don't see a reverse, sweep. I think.
I don't think it'll be a sweep, but I don't think it's going to be highly competitive from Ottawa's standpoint. I just don't see it. I don't think their defense is up to the task. I know
you're going to get into where the concerns are for Ottawa.
That's my initial thought on it. Is their defense. The Leafs' defense is a lot more improved than it used to be.
It is, but we have to factor in the injury concern right now, because last night in the victory over Buffalo, which clinched the Atlantic, you had Simone Benoit, Philippe Myers, and Dakota Mermis on the blue line.
I'm guessing Mermis is not going to play in the playoffs, though.
Jake McCabe is skating. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is skating. But in talking to some of the Toronto media that I know pretty well, they don't know. And Berube was being very cagey in terms of the. Now, of course, this is the time of year when everybody's going to be cagey. We know that, but I don't know. I don't know whether, and if they are going to be playing, are they going to be at 100%? And we know that if they're out now, they're going to be targeted. I'm not saying they're going to go ahead and swing a stick at them, but I'm just saying that is what the playoffs do. You focus on the guys who might be a little wounded, and you rub salt in that wound. That's what you do. And
sure.
So Brady Tkachuk is going to take some heat from guys like Scott Lawton. And players on the Leafs, because Brady Tkachuk will be less effective if he's nursing an injury and he's having to compensate for that.
Yeah, I would just say this, like I forget who it was that wrote in the room. Maybe Omar steals some games. Oh, RPG man 45. Maybe one. I've never seen Linus Ullmark really steal big games. He really has to start doing that. Even though he's won awards, this is the other part of his career where it hasn't been all that rosy.
Well, remember, in the famous series where Florida beat them in 7, Ullmark was injured, and they did not go to Swayman until Game 7, which was Montgomery really screwing up. Last year, he played Game 2 after Swayman played great in Game 1 against Toronto. Ullmark was beaten, and then they went with Swayman the rest of the series. So is he proven in the playoffs? No. Is he a good goalie? Yes. And good goalies can get hot and can steal series. I mean, I think there's just as much question. And, I know that I saw the stats, like Stolarz is 8-0 with a 1 point something goals against and a .950 save percentage. He's never started a playoff game. All those stats are out the window as well. So we'll see.
Yeah. The Blues and the Wild make it. I didn't think the Blues would make it, I'll be honest. And they did. And good for them. Like,
great second. It was just a great run for them.
I think the four nations fueling Binnington fueled the team. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, you have to give them a lot of credit. And again, Jim Montgomery, I think, is a damn good coach.
We all know that.
We all know that, and taking over that team midseason, when where things were at, in some not quite mirroring Berube's run for the Stanley Cup year, and I'm not ready to go there yet with the St. Louis Blues team, but yeah, they got on a really. They don't
have a team song either. I just want to point that out today, so we don't act like, oh yeah, they've had this team song for like 2 months when they start saying it in a week.
Right, and we're going to obviously see whatever song they decide on, if they do or do not.
Right.
But, I look at the Blues.
Maybe it'll be Cat Scratch Fever.
I think it's been every bit that they've been able to try to get into the playoffs. Can they upset around? Possibly. Yeah. I'm not necessarily completely on. I have to see again the final matchups here before I'm ready to.
Right, because we don't know the final matchups for everything yet. Exactly. That's fair. So.
Well, I mean, we do know that it's Winnipeg, St. Louis, and it's Vegas, Minnesota. So the only thing,
the reason why it's going to be tough for me to pick St. Louis.
I mean, although Winnipeg, without Ehlers, and it sounds like Ehlers is probably not going to start the playoffs. He's got whatever unspecified injury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can get through St. Louis if Hellebuck plays like he normally does.
Yeah.
And they get they have a balanced offensive attack. I don't know whether they can get by Dallas or Colorado without Ehlers. I think they're going to need him at that.
Yeah, they would need him. And Dan's right. Like, there's points where like Hellebuck probably needs to pull better games in the playoffs, and that's fair. But his team, like, I think is better suited for it now. So we'll see.
Hellebuck is now, I think this is fair to say, Hellebuck is in the same territory that Sergei Bobrovsky was.
Yes,
dominant in the regular season, but has not yet proved it in the playoffs.
Yeah, winning awards.
I think it's a fair critique and a narrative that he has to face down.
Yeah,
but we can say this, and this is already firmly established, based on the 4 matchups, the 2-3 matchups. They're either absolutely unfair and ridiculous or absolutely and unfairly boring, because you've got Carolina, New Jersey, which is the worst matchup of the 8 series. No doubt in my mind, it's the worst.
Hold on. All right, so I know I'm going to be probably covering a few of those games, or at least one of them, because I will be on vacation at some point, so you'll see a gap in this show too. But I don't know if it's going to be the worst, Mike. I mean, I think you're just saying, well, Carolina's going to steamroll them and that's it. It's over. That's what that tells me.
Anthony, it's the most unexciting of the 8 series. I mean, it's not to say that,
which is kind of wild to say, because these are 2 teams that we're going into the season. You look at it and you think you have a lot of offensive firepower on both sides, yet both teams are kind of going in. I don't want to say on fumes, but they kind of are.
Yeah.
And I think that may be creating the perception of the series that this one will be the least entertaining of the series.
Yeah. And then you've got Edmonton, LA, Park Katra. It's like, I mean, you've got, it's like, how many times do we need this?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Well, I said the same thing. I said the same thing when they kept making Rocky movies. I'm like, how many?
Yeah. And this one is Drago. It's like, great. Drago's taking the steroids, or Rocky's pulling up the friggin' horse cart in the barn.
Also on steroids.
Also on steroids.
Also on steroids, but
I love that.
It's not on camera. But it's like, but it's okay. And I'll go here because I already said it on Twitter. The NHL Department of Player Safety is a disgrace. And the reason that they're a disgrace is because they have 1 game left in the regular season, and in a precursor of the playoff matchup where Darnell Nurse pile drives and cross checks Quentin Byfield prone on the ice with on the back of his neck, Gee, they give him a 1-game suspension. So he doesn't get suspended for the first game of the playoffs. And why did they do that? Well, they're already out without Matthias Ekholm, so we can't deprive them of Darnell Nurse as well. Why the hell not?
Mike, you got to remember, this is like Canadian dollar to the American dollar. When you have playoff injuries and plays like that, it's like 5 regular season games. So,
but if you really get down to it, not in this circumstance. Because again, you're suspending him for almost a near meaningless game. I think my opinion is, if we're going to use that kind of, comparison, Nurse should be sitting game 1.
He should. In reality, he should.
But if we're going to say that in the regular season he would have been suspended 3 to 4 games or something like that. And again, are they going by his priors? Does he have any priors, really, Nurse? Because that's the other thing the NHL is going to go for. I hate to say it, they do operate that way.
But my point with this is, it's not a coincidence that it's against the team that you're playing in the first round of the playoffs, i.e., this is sort of targeting. Byfield is one of their best players, a guy who's going to give them problems.
You penalize him, and you take, in my opinion, then my point stands even more than that. You suspend him 2 games. You suspend him the last game of the season. You suspend him game 1.
Pre-Department of Player Safety NHL would have done the exact same thing, and we all would have bitched about it. And this league has been like this forever when it comes to this, suspending players for the playoffs. It almost never happens.
It's WWE, basically.
Well, I mean, okay, I don't know. What would a say this suspension was 3 games? Would the suspension have cost like the last game of the regular season and then 2 playoff games, or the last game of the regular season and then the first 2 games of next regular
That's
season?
A possibility.
I stand corrected. Nurse did have a prior, as Asa was just stating in the chat.
And
he was suspended for headbutting Matthew Deneau.
And that's why I would have waited until after the last game of the regular season and then suspend him for the first game of the playoffs. Suspending him for a meaningless game because Edmonton is going to start on the road. There's no home ice implications at all. It was the ultimate in weakness by the Department of Player Safety, but that's par for the course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you were expecting something else. I certainly wasn't.
I mean, let's just say this: if we're to the point where that's what we're expecting, then they need to.
I'm at that point. Yes,
they need to blow up the Department of Player Safety.
I mean, but Mike, I just pointed out pre-Department of Player Safety, it would have been the same exact thing, just without the explanation.
It's horse crap. It really is.
Yeah, it's just this is the way it is. It's like,
look. But I don't want to accept that. I want the sport that I cover to be, above that kind of bullshit. And really it's crap. It's total crap.
Okay. That's a great explanation. Thank you. Very eloquent. So
crap. I majored in eloquence at Buffalo State University.
Fantastic. Yeah, I understand where that's coming from. But as far as Edmonton goes, they don't have Matthias Ekholm, and that's massive. And we could talk about offense all we want, but very rarely does the best offensive team go far in the playoffs. So this is going to hurt them.
No, I think so. This is going to be. This one really makes this series. Certainly, when I'm doing my picks, lines up with, again, if it becomes a grinder of a series and they can't get loose offensively, I think this is going to be really tough. And not having Ekholm in the fight for the first round it's a tough way to go. And I look at it as I said on the last show, they have to collectively play tremendous defensive hockey, which I haven't seen the Oilers really do, at least. Well, not since last season's post.
Exactly. That's
which maybe it click. Maybe there is such a thing where the switch clicks on and the defense plays better as a unit.
But Skinner played really well in the playoffs last year. They had a fully healthy defense where, Cody Ceci was their number 5, but stepped up into like a number 4 role and he was exposed. He's not even there. You're talking about a defense that the top 3 is pretty decent, but now one of the top 3, probably the most important of the top 3, Ekholm, is going to be out.
Yeah, so that's too much to be compromised. Chicago once lived off their top 3 and won a cup, but those top 3 were super solid. This is not the case right now for Edmonton. So that's a worry. It's definitely a worry. Moving on, the other thing I'd like to point out is, and I did like an unofficial survey of the Masterton, and I'm pretty sure Gabriel Landeskog is going to win. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I would just like, and I don't think anybody here is going to fight me on that one, but I'd like to just ask your opinions on what you think his impact will be, because I think even if he just plays 10 minutes a game, the emotional lift that team will get, I think, is massive.
No, I absolutely agree with that. It's to me, especially with Dallas not having Dallas's injury situation with Heiskanen.
Yeah.
And having Landeskog, and again, as he gets his legs, and it's going to be crazy because it's going to be like he hasn't played in 2 years, and now he's got a couple game run up with the Eagles, and then he's right into the thick of it, and that makes me a little nervous in some ways, which is why I think your tact of maybe 10 minutes a night is the right way to go with him. But it's one of the key factors with me, certainly leading Colorado in this series. Beyond that, and the loss of Heiskanen from Dallas' side.
Yeah, no, I think the benefit is purely emotional. I mean,
but it means a lot in the playoffs.
It definitely does.
At the minimum, it can carry it potentially around. After that, it turns into just matchups.
I mean, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, whether they'll be protected minutes. I mean, whatever. Him being in the lineup for game 1, I mean, it's going to be very impactful. Now, I think the more impactful thing in this series is going to be Heiskanen, because it doesn't sound like he's going to be available for at least most of the first round. Mm-hmm. And these teams are pretty balanced. I mean, I think Ottinger is better than Blackwood, but not by a big stretch. But I think Colorado's defense, fully healthy, is better than Dallas's defense. And then you're talking 2 absolutely loaded forward complements. Like I said, the 2-3 matchup, this one is one I'm dining out on. This is the one I'm watching every game. Whereas Carolina, New Jersey, Edmonton, LA, I'll catch my beauty sleep on those games.
Yeah, and obviously we have to take into factor as well. Mikko Rantanen going up against his old team.
Yeah,
there's so many really just tremendous storylines that
there are
into the series. So
I'm
excited for it too.
Another reason to love Canada is they're moving an election debate so it doesn't interfere with the Canadians game. And I think that's spectacular. On some level, that's really.
Listen, it's politics. This is politics, Canadian politics, man. You want to get people to. You want people to vote for you. You work your way around the Kings. You work your way around it. You don't have a presidential debate on Super Bowl Sunday. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. But in the U.S., otherwise, they don't really move those debates.
Well, in this case, the presidential debate doesn't happen. Then,
but Anthony, you did.
I apologize. That was a dumb comparison, everybody.
No, but Anthony, you did have the presidential debate the day before the NHL draft, if you do remember.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
that's true. But anyhow, the one thing I want to say about that game the other night, the shootout. So, a couple things. The first one with the Canadian shootout is. Mm-hmm. I felt like they melted down in the shootout when they finally said that Nazar scored the goal. And it was interesting because I was watching it on my phone and I thought it went in, and then they went on to the next shooter and they missed. And I was like, okay, I don't know what just happened here. Then they go back and they say it's a goal. And I'm watching Marty St. Louis, and he was like frozen, like he didn't know what to do.
Well, but here's the thing, Russ. Like, what was St. Louis thinking that because Nazar scored that they would get the second shootout attempt over again? And it's like, no.
He thought it was going to be a do-over because it was dumb to put Patrick Laine in the shootout. Everybody knows it. I spoke to Brian Hedger about it, And he was like, yeah, I was surprised to see Line in the shootout. Like, that's a bad move to put Line in.
That's not Line's forte.
No.
Not even close. So it was not I mean, I like Marty St. Louis. I think
I do too. He was on the rocks early in the year.
I think he's in the top 5 for the Jack Adams this year, but I still think there's moments where his lack of head coaching experience, and I know sometimes you want to kind of go on feel, but you got to know your skill set of your players. And I was hoping that Line was going to pull a rabbit trick out that they've never seen before in the shootout, and that didn't happen.
I mean, if they wanted to go down that road, Anthony, then you put Demidov, but that's putting too much pressure on.
No, that's putting too much pressure. I think when St. Louis,
I don't want to be too much. You know what? It's just like he's young, he's happy to be there. Nobody's gonna. It's actually if you really get down to it, that's the perfect time to put Demidov in there.
I don't know about that.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Because in this case, again, he's a young player who, no matter what happens in these circumstances, he's still extremely popular, right? So even if that error occurs, you get the logic behind putting him in there because nobody's got a book on him yet.
I understand that logic. I do think the pressure's too much, and I do think that's why St. Louis tapped him before it started, probably saying, I'm not going to use you. So he knew that he's not going to use him. Don't worry about being amped up.
And I'm not going to kill St. Louis for that. It's just there were other options.
Yeah, no, there's definitely using Line I didn't like, and I think there were other options, and it was just weird the way that worked out. And then if you go back to the Kirby Dach trade, you would know that Nazar was the guy that Chicago got in it, and Chicago beats them on a game that they could have gotten into the playoffs, and Kirby Dach is injured and maybe will never be good.
But okay, now
that's a hell of a cause and effect after that draft in Montreal.
I'm going to tell you one thing. I guarantee you they weren't thinking any bit about that, Russ.
No. I will tell you this. I'm going to say this, okay? In the draft in Montreal, and this has come up, we talked about it kind of under the surface, and it has come up after the fact. Montreal did not use the same Montreal hot dogs. I think that's fair to say that at that draft, the level of hot dog was not up to the standard.
We've already gone into the food take already, huh?
No.
Oh no! This is a bonus food take.
This is a bonus.
I will tell you, I thought the hot dogs that we had at the draft were everybody hyped them up, and I thought I was like,
they weren't even
but it's a hot dog.
They weren't even on a friggin' bun. They were on a friggin' piece of white bread that was
supposed to be. I thought that was. That's not the way it's supposed to be. I thought it was.
No, that is the way it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be that way.
Well,
it's supposed to be on that guy.
And the hot dog was supposed to make up for that, and it didn't.
But it's just the idea was because they were tripling or quadrupling the amount of hot dogs that they normally do. It seemed like they didn't use the same ones, or because nobody said these are the ones. Everybody was kind of like, "Ooh, these aren't as good. They're good, but they're not as good."
Go out on the street to go get one, and then we did. Obviously we didn't do that. So, and I didn't even get a chance to go to what's the famous meat? Schwartz's, exactly. Yeah. I never got a chance to go there, but I would have been trying to go to Katz's in New York, and good luck getting service. Probably.
I'm definitely doing that when I'm going to New York. But we had to go to that cafe twice, didn't we, Anthony?
Oh, here we go. It's just
which cafe? Which one are we talking about?
We went to the same cafe twice. It was good. Don't get me wrong. We went to that cafe.
No, Mike is going to complain about this to
Montreal. I remember us going to the same cafe. I remember us going to the same bar twice in Vancouver.
Oh no! What about the same restaurant 3 times in Vegas?
See, I knew this is like.
Shane's not going to be happy with this. Tough shit.
This is Mike's pent up aggression now. Here we go.
Nothing's pent up about my aggression.
All right. Before we get to the final food take, is there anything else?
Let's see. Is there anything else? Well, okay. I do think Columbus fans will have a little bit of an issue with Carolina, basically, and this is Carolina's right because they're concerned about themselves.
They're going to sit some guys, sure.
They're sitting Aho, they're sitting Jarvis, they're sitting Slavin, they're sitting 3 or 4 of their best players. Does that mean that Montreal can't blow it? Nope, they blew it against Chicago. That was the game they should have won. So, and there is no love between these organizations. Remember, this is the organization that signed Aho to an offer sheet, Montreal, and then Kotkaniemi, and they signed him. So, you don't think that that Tom Dundon and Eric Tulsky would like to stick it to the Habs? I think they would.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. If I'm Montreal, I'm not worried about Skylar Brindamore, but Bradley Nadeau, I might worry about him. Bradley Nadeau's got some skills, man. So, it'll be interesting, but this is a pressurized situation. The Blue Jackets talked about it in their locker room last night. Dante Fabro, of all people, who was jettisoned from Nashville, somehow wasn't picked up until the Blue Jackets picked him up, which is crazy that nobody else picked him up. He's on their top pairing. He scored a big goal last night.
A right shot defenseman who got through.
Why did no other team pick him up before Columbus? It makes no sense.
I don't understand it. Russ. It was the salary. I mean, his salary is like in the two.
Columbus was. I mean,
it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like he's a $6 million guy.
No, but I guess it could come down to whether or not if teams, terms of fit for their style of play, I think maybe things worked a little bit better in Columbus form, where the style just has matched the player.
Okay, but they know what they're up against, and they've been playing like desperate hockey for a while. So that's what their whole take was. The last food take I was going to have is, so we're in this, and it's not going to be a particular thing. This is just a feel that I'm seeing in the food world, and I will be the first to say I like pickles, right? But I like certain kinds of pickles.
Mm.
The world has gone pickle crazy. I'm seeing pickle dust. I'm seeing pickle drinks.
Pickle glazed.
Pickle glazed.
Yep.
What is going on in this world? Like, where all of a sudden, like, pickles have a place, and they do on a sandwich. I don't even think on chips they do, but okay, if you want to like that, that's your right.
Yeah.
But I think there could be pickle overreach, and I think
this is kind of like there's like, I feel like there's sort of a shortage. It's the have to just say that.
Yeah, no, Russ, I saw the signage at Popeyes with the
pickle glaze.
It's
like they're already doing, like, the chicken sandwiches already have a pickle on them, which is
they all do. Every chicken sandwich has a pickle,
which is meant, in my mind, to be an accent to the sandwich.
Right.
Now you're going to have the pickle with the pickle glaze on the
I'm over pickled.
Or like City Field has a pickle on the sandwich with pickle dust on the French fries. Like, what are we doing here?
How do you do that?
Pickle dust. So it's
I guess maybe you use the
it's still a little bit of pickle juice mixed
No.
It's still seasoning. It's still seasoning.
I don't even think it's that. I think they use the sodium nitrate and they freeze it. And then maybe they use the dust that way, because they do that with other foods on these fancy cooking shows.
I mean, don't get me like
it could be like Mike said, it could just be in a shaker, but they could do it that way too, where they freeze it, liquid nitrogen.
Yeah,
and they could freeze it with that. Yeah,
I think that's what it is. I mean, I love I like a particular brand. If you're talking store bought pickles, like the Clausen pickles that are crunchy,
Clausen are good, but Tomt is better in the cold section.
Okay, I haven't seen those
because you're not Jewish. But if you go to the cold section, it's Betomt, and those are the better pickles. But Clausen's the next best. What's the worst? This is the yellow mustard.
Vlasic.
No, they're okay, but
they're mushy. They're disgusting.
The worst of the type of pickles, and this is like the yellow mustard of pickles, are those bread and butter pickles. They're disgusting.
Oh no! That is
brutal.
What was the movie that came out a few years back where I think it was what was it, Seth Rogen, where he's like he's a guy who it's like he's back in like the late 1800s. He falls into a pickle vat.
Like
an old Jewish guy, preserved.
Yes.
And they take him out. He's in the modern world, and he's doing all this.
Preserved in the pickles.
Yeah, yes. Preserved in the pickles, and it's like $4, but bring back the jar.
Right. So, Mike, look it up, Betomt. I don't know if they'll have them at Wegmans, because I know you're a Wegmans person. But
actually, Wegmans did away with Clausen. They're doing their own store brand, and I have to go someplace special to get the Clausen. But when I go to New York in the summer, I'm going to have to go to Katz's Deli and get an official because I'm sure they have really good pickles.
No, they do. I mean, all those delis have the right pickles. I just don't like the type that are basically unripened. I forget what those pickles.
Yeah, no, I don't like those either.
The really green ones, not the light ones that almost look like a cucumber with just a little. Yeah, whatever those are bad.
Not a pickle. That's not a pickle.
It's not a pickle.
All I'm going to say is, as we close out the show, I hope everybody was just pickled with this podcast today.
Pickle is turning into the new pumpkin spice, but pickles are better in nature as a whole, I think. But
at least
natural.
At least it's not ketchup. Because I
remember Nolan Ryan used pickle juice to keep the blisters away. So.
No, Al Leiter.
No, Nolan Ryan, Mike. He was the first.
He was the first one. Oh, Al Leiter, because
Leiter did it too.
Al probably learned it from
he did
tricks of the trade that were passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
While he's beating on the head of Robin Ventura.
Yes, we have to bring that up every single time, don't we?
That's it. That's it for Off the Post. We'll catch everybody next time.
Take care, everybody.
I'm pickled.